Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, continuing our series on the greatness of the Arabic language. Here we're going to start off by talking about a small anecdote that happened to a great scholar of Islam. This is the story of Sheikh Khalid al-Azhari, rahmatullahi alayhi, who was one of the great scholars of Egypt. He was Sheikh al-Azhar during his time, so the grand Sheikh in the University of Azhar, and he was master of the Arabic language. So what is his story and why are we talking about it here in order to better understand the greatness of the Arabic language and the importance of learning it? Well, let's go ahead and see why or how this correlates to the topic. So before the Sheikh started seeking knowledge, his job was to take care of the torches used for lighting in Al-Azhar University. So his job was just making sure to make sure that the oil was there and that the torches were still lit and that they were working properly and so on and so forth. So he was not someone who had learned, he wasn't someone who had studied, he was just a regular Muslim who just happened to have this job. One day when he reached 36 years of age, he was replacing the oil for one of the torches when by accident some of the oil fell on one of the students' paper. So I guess he was in a room or something along those lines while the class was going on or while the student was studying, and he came to replace the oil, but by accident, some of the oil fell on the student's papers. So what happened? When this happened, the student told him, "Watch out, you ignorant person." A'udhu billah. So he pretty much insulted him and insulted his intelligence. So after hearing this, Sheikh Khalid al-Ahsari, he decided to quit his job and started seeking knowledge from that point on. So that would mean that he started seeking knowledge when he was 36 years old. And he became Sheikh al-Azhar. So he became the greatest Sheikh of that university, one of the greatest Sheikhs of his time, no doubt about it, and a great scholar of the Arabic language, even though he started studying the Arabic language at the age of 36. And part of his accomplishment is that he wrote the greatest explanation of Awdah al-Masalik. Awdah al-Masalik is pretty much the greatest, if one of the greatest explanations of Ibn Malik's famous Alfiya, his famous thousand lines of poetry. Awdah al-Masalik is a famous explanation of that poetry by Ibn Hisham. By Ibn Hisham. So Awdah al-Masalik is an explanation of the Alfiya of Ibn Malik that was written by Ibn Hisham, who's another great scholar of the Arabic language. And for that explanation, Awdah al-Masalik, Sheikh Khalid, he wrote an explanation for that explanation, which is called At-Tasrih bi Madmun Tawdih. And both of these books, Awdah al-Masalik, which is an explanation of Alfiyat al-Malik, and At-Tasrih, which is an explanation of Awdah al-Masalik, both of these are studied to this day. So pretty much my main point here is that he became a great scholar of the Arabic language, of the Arabic grammar, and he wrote books that are still studied to this day, even though he started studying the Arabic language and started studying Islam at least to a very strong or in a very intense fashion at the age of 36. So this is our first anecdote that I want to talk about here to explain that age is not an excuse. Doesn't matter how old you are, you can always seek knowledge, you can always learn the Arabic language. Moving on to our second and last narration for today. It's reported that Hassan al-Basri was asked, "Do you think a man should learn the Arabic language in order to speak properly and understand the Quran?" Hassan al-Basri he mentioned or he responded by saying, "He shall learn it, for verily a person will read a verse while not understanding and thus be ruined." So the Quran is written in the Arabic language, and you can only fully understand the Quran by understanding the language within which it was revealed, which is the Arabic language. So if someone does not fully understand the Arabic language, it's very easy for her or him to misunderstand certain verses of the Quran. If someone misunderstands certain verses of the Quran, it can very likely lead to its ruin, to him or her ruin. And that's why a lot of the deviant sects of Islam, whether it be the Ash'ari or Mu'tazila and so on and so forth, a lot of deviant sects in Islam, the reason why they fell and one of the main factors that led to them falling into those deviants and also staying within those deviances is because of their lack of knowledge of the Arabic language and because of their faulty understanding of the Arabic language, which led them to fall into these very serious issues that ruin their aqidah and thus ruin their deen to a certain extent. So it's very important for us to learn the Arabic language in order to be able to fully understand the Quran in the language that was written in, as Allah says in the Quran. كتاب فصلت آياته قرآنا عربيا قوم يعلمون. Allah says the Quran that is the verses are detailed for people, and it's an Arabic Quran for people who know. It's an Arabic Quran for people who know. So Allah mentions, as we covered in the previous videos, many different times that the Quran is in Arabic, and thus you cannot fully understand a book if you don't understand the language within which it was written in. So these are just some benefits, inshallah, that should push us to learn the Arabic language and show us the greatness of learning the Arabic language.